Most people, I think it's like 99% of the industry in real estate, think about it just as a sales job. It's really a glorified sales job. We get paid really good to help people buy, sell, and invest. But what we decided to do, us and my two other partners at that time, was, hey, let's like build up some other leaders. Let's get some other team members. Let's get some support staff. Let's start to scale this out.
Today, we have a treat for you. We have Jas Takhar. Jas is we'll just say he's very well known in the real estate industry and in sales overall. He has helped over 10,000 families buy and sell homes. He's sold close to $3 billion in real estate sales. So he's not new to the sales game, and he's highly influential as well in this industry. Jas, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate it, Mark. Thanks for having me, man. We were fortunate enough to be in the same company and organization in the past, and now I've been able to see what you've been able to build, and it's really a treat to see what you and your crew and team have accomplished of recent. So congratulations, and I want to give you flowers as well, my friend, because as your viewers and listeners know, now a lot of my community is going to get to hear you and obviously see that good looking face of yours. And I urge my community to dive into all the things that Mark and the team is doing. But congratulations on all the success on your end, brother.
Well, thank you for that. But enough about me. We want to talk all about Jas there today. And, I know a little bit about your story, Jas, but maybe we can go back for the listeners out there. Some would look at you and say, oh, he's just a natural sales guy. Like he's just always been good at this stuff. But maybe we'll go back to the beginning of you thinking, you know what, I'd like to be an entrepreneur. I'd like to grow something. I'd like to grow a business. Maybe we can go back to the beginning. And what was it that really sparked you to start thinking that way? And then what was that first action towards entrepreneurial journey that you when you kicked it off?
Yeah. Like, I never as a kid thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. Back then, the word entrepreneurship didn't even really exist. Like people were
Yeah.
businessmen and businesswomen. What I really wanted to do for the rest of my life as a kid was sales. I just didn't know that it was called, the sales industry, because at the age of
Right.
6 and 7, Mark, I can remember putting up my hand. I was the first kid to put up my hand to help with the book sale or going door to door selling Christmas ornaments. I'm of East Indian descent, so Christmas is not like something that we really celebrate. We're in it now from a cultural perspective, I guess. And I quickly learned as well later on in life that it was probably to just get out of class and school because I didn't really learn in that setting. But at the age of 12, I started selling newspapers, and I was like, this is it. It's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Like, this is really cool. I get to knock on doors. I get to meet people. Yeah, I get some rejection and all that kind of stuff, and then I get paid for it. So that was kind of neat. But in terms of like actual entrepreneurship and running a business, that didn't happen until probably about 25, 26, when myself and two other business partners got together and we started and created an actual real estate team. Now, you know this more than anyone else, but for some of your viewers and listeners, real estate and being a real estate agent, real estate salesperson, you don't really think about it from a business perspective. It's like, let me sell some real estate. I'm going to do some transactions. Yeah, it'll be cool if I get some referrals and some repeat clients. But you don't really, most people, I think it's like 99% of the industry in real estate, think about it just as a sales job. It's really a glorified sales job. We get paid really good to help people buy, sell, and invest. But what we decided to do, us and my two other partners at that time, was, hey, let's like build up some other leaders. Let's get some other team members. Let's get some support staff. Let's start to scale this out. And we started that, as I mentioned, about 14, 15 years ago. Because as I started as a real estate agent, I was like probably most people. I got in thinking I was going to make a lot of money because I saw some some guys and gals driving some nice Beamers and Mercedes and nice suits and having some nice shoes, but I got slapped in the face really, really quickly, from the perspective of it's a lot harder. I mean, there's a lot to it. But I've been fortunate enough now to have a team, have that leadership, have people in leadership roles, and now do a lot of business, and I'm very, very grateful for it.
Jazz, when you started, you had said that you wanted to build leaders. Was that something like right off the bat when you guys were looking to partners, like we want to grow something, we want to grow something big, and we got to start training our leaders, or was that something that you slowly learned? Because when I started, it was just like putting food on the table, and this whole team concept, I didn't even really know what that was when I started. It was only like years after it was kind of this kind of slow. Well, we have to bring on more help because we're so busy, but was that something you had that foresight to build, say, we want to build this from scratch and lay a strong foundation?
Yeah, it really was because the way that we
Wow.
built our team, not to say it's the only way, not to even say it's the right way, man. And on the flip side, I don't think it's the wrong way. It was right for us from the start, which was we are going to be the support for our realtors. From the perspective of it's not going to be the Jas Takhar team. And again, I mean, I'm looking at you. You went down the route from the Mark Faris team, and I think you've done very well. And majority of people have went down that route, and that's worked really well for them. For us, we knew that we weren't good at a lot of things. For example, like we're not good at the accounting. We're not good at hiring people necessarily and making sure all the phone lines are working. What we do really, really well is marketing and closing deals. But for us to also create a business around our life, not the other way around, we knew we needed to develop more leaders. I mean, there's a sign around my office, with an acronym of LDL, leaders develop leaders. And so even now, we have people in our part of our team that is a VP. We have a director of operations. We have a director of concierge services. And we try not to micromanage them as much. We let them make their own decisions. And so I would say right from the get, we knew that we got to start developing some other people, which allows us to do other things. For example, I started a coaching academy on the heels of my real estate company because it wasn't always about me. I wasn't always needed in every single decision in all of the day-to-day operations, which makes me more happy, which allows my team to want to be around me more because I'm in a happy state and a positive state. And so, yeah, I would say that all three of us made that decision very, very early on.
That's phenomenal. That's something. It wasn't until years later I realized that to take it to the next level, you don't just need great people, like, that's really important, but if you can get great leaders working with you, that's where your business explodes, so that's amazing foresight you had.
Just to add to that, Mark, because I know a lot of your viewers and listeners are wanting to scale. They're not just necessarily people who are just starting out right now. And I got to tell you that you, it's not easy in terms of that process of developing leaders. You have to go through a lot of people. Period. Like you're gonna have to, I think of my VP in my real estate company. She's also a business partner in my coaching academy. Everyone who comes into our organization, into our environment, the first thing they say is like, "How do I get one of her?" I'm like, "Well, you can't. You have to create her. Like, she's not just out there. Like, you got to go through 20, 30 people that don't work, not because they're not good or they're not skillful. It's just that they're not necessarily bought in to the vision, bought into the mission, bought into the dream. And so you have to go through 20 people that don't work to get that one person. So for the guys and gals that want to scale, to Mark's point, to get to that next level, you're going to need people and you need to actually care for them. You need to spend time with them. It's not always about the money, not to say that not all the people want more money, like they do want more money at times, but you're going to come to learn that if you actually really care, you're going to start to find out that Sometimes it's a title. Sometimes it's more time off. Sometimes it's just more time with you personally, right? And so be very, very prepared to put in that extra bit of time.
Yeah, no, that you said some really smart things there, and finding out what's important to them, that's really important to attract the right talent for sure. If the listeners were wanted to say, not have to go through 20 people and maybe try and cut that down and get it right more, we'll just say, maybe on the first couple times, what would you say would be some key attributes that you look for? You've hired a lot of leaders. You know what some core, we'll say, was some foundational traits that they have. What are those traits that would help them get to find that person sooner?
I think that for me, it's two things. Number one is resiliency. In both my organizations, my companies, they're sales organizations, right? Like we have the coaching, but we also have the real estate company, but they're both sales. And I've come to learn with the 30 years of sales experience that you are going to get rejected way many more times than you're going to succeed. Like you're just going to fail. You need to go through way more no's to get the yeses, but the yeses will change the course of your business. It will change the course of your life. So what I'm looking for is resiliency. The skill aspect of it, it's important, but as we move on at the time of this recording, fall of 2024, and we go into 2025 and years beyond, technology is starting to commoditize a lot of the skills, right? Like we were both told, Mark, not to age you, brother, but that our teacher said to us, well, you better learn how to do math because you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket when you go to the grocery store.
Yeah,
Well, hey Siri, what's 37,000 times
yeah,
53,000? You know what I
yeah,
mean? We
yeah.
got that now. You can't, you cannot, in my opinion, teach resiliency. People have to have that thick skin. So I'm looking for people's backstories. So exactly how you started this recording today, like trying to find out, hey, Jas, like, what did you go through? And all like I ask questions like that in the interview time. And number two is empathy. In sales, you will have a lot of success if you can just learn to put yourself in the shoes of the people that you're talking to. Understand that it's not necessarily about handling people's objections, and you'll get this more than anyone else, Smart, being an ex-hockey player. People are not hockey pucks. We can't stick handle them, in my opinion. People have feelings, they have emotions, they have stories, they have things that they're going through. You need to be empathetic to it. So I'm sitting and when I'm meeting someone, they bring me their glorified resumes and all that kind of stuff, and it's great. I very rarely look at the resumes because I know that I've maybe slightly exaggerated that I'm fluent in French on my resumes, and I know bonjour and au revoir and a couple of things in French. But I have a funny feeling that most people do the same thing. And what you tell me on your resume doesn't really mean much until you get into the environment that is my home and my workplace here. And so the two attributes would be resiliency and empathy.
Love that. Yeah, it's interesting when I go through my interviews, that is the interview is telling your story. Like take me, where were you born? Take me through your schooling and, where you worked and some of the wins that you had and some of the challenges you had to overcome as well. And I'm looking for like consistency of either like you're a victor, you hit a challenge and you overcome it. You bought your first house, you ended up growing X, 20% in your prior company to the bottom line, right? Like we just interviewed an amazing controller. She was a foster parent for 10 years for 65 kids. I'm like, oh, and then she recently just got her CPA updated and she worked for the last 10 years. So, that to me is she knows how to overcome challenge. And so I totally agree with that. And getting the backstory of consistency in the story of either a victim or a victor story, I'm looking for that. The
And
empathy is yeah, go ahead.
yes, they started cut you off, brother. Like I know you have siblings, correct? Like,
Yeah,
is it you?
there's
Two brothers? What do you got?
yeah, 6 so there's 6 boys and 3 girls in our family.
Oh,
So
okay.
I got 5 brothers, yeah, so 3 of
Okay.
them I'm
So
working with, yeah,
this is going to land with you 100%. I have two
yeah,
older brothers, which for me is always a healthy reminder. I'm closer to the bottom than I am to the top. Like this whole Jas Takhar thing. They see me on social media content. We're at places and people are coming up to me and they humble me really, really
Well,
quickly.
they because well, they protected you growing up, but I'm sure
Yeah,
they kinda toughened you up though too, I'm sure, right?
100%. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
in terms of in the interview process, while I'm finding out the backstory, and this might land with you in terms of you actually implementing this, I'm always asking about siblings. And I had to ask myself, why do I keep asking that question in interviews? And I realized it was because our place here, when we come to work, we're like siblings. We're kind of on top of each other. We spend a lot of time with each other. And like your brothers and sisters, you probably know, they probably wanted to kill you more than you wanted to kill them. You never did. You realize that, you know what? I'm just going to stay away from her for 24 hours, 30, 40, 48 hours. I'm going to stay away from him. He needs his space. She needs her space. But you loved each other, you respected each other. And so for me, that's kind of the third thing that I'm always trying to find out in some of these interviews. Because if you had siblings, you kind of know how we're going to be. We're going to work with each other. We're going to love each other. We're going to respect each other. And it's okay not to like each other for a couple of days because we're together so often.
Yeah, that's great, and it speaks a lot to your culture as well, Jazz, that you would be thinking that way. You know, that to add to that list, 'cause I love that resiliency and empathy, I found there to be 3 other things that really they do tie into that to a certain degree as well, and one is like this magnetic character. This they're super attractive, and I'm not necessarily talking about, like, physically attractive, like, we were kinda joking about that earlier, but it's like their character, there's something that's like, draws you to them. And so, like, your personality, Jazz, that would attract that attracts us your personality is very attractive to certain people of what your culture is, right? And so, if you can find those people within that role that because I found the department mirrors the leader. And so if you can find somebody that has this attractive character, that's powerful. The second one is the ability to have tough conversations. And then, the candor. And then the last one is like they want to win. And that goes back to the interview process when I'm interviewing them. It's like, I interviewed this one guy and he was a football champ in university. He got a scholarship and they won multiple championships. And like, you know how to win. Like it's hard to teach people how to win. Either you're a winner or you get used to losing all the years, right? So and then, with going back to your resiliency, it was interesting. We just interviewed somebody. Her resume was phenomenal. Going back to your, what you'd say to you don't really look at the resume. It was probably the prettiest, well laid out resume I've ever seen. And what we do ahead of time to really test this resiliency is well, we give them job simulations to build it,
Okay.
doing the role ahead of time so we can see how they operate. And it was interesting. She said to me at the end of the call, "Is like, why do you do that? Do the job simulations? Like, I'm I've gone through many different tests. I have my CPA and I said, and she's like, because it's like going to take me like 4 hours. I'm like, he's like, why do you do it? I'm just like, you want to say you express your full mind. He's like, oh, what are you doing? You just totally failed. And I'm like, well, I said just to see how you respond to it. And that
Yeah.
that was it. But, that would have answered her question, and she probably clicked in later. But the point there is, if you can test this ahead of time and get it from, like, 20 to 5 to 2, like, what Jazz and I some of these things that we're talking about, if you're listening to that, like, really hone in on that because finding leaders is not, to me, an option if you wanna grow. You have to do it. If you can shortcut your way along the way, I mean, it really makes it a lot less painful.
I completely agree, brother. I mean, and then when you actually find the people, let them, because if you went through that whole process that you just mentioned and you think you have a good, you have a good Laura, for example, let's use her as an example, let her make mistakes and let her flourish, right? I think sometimes what I see is there's a lot of micromanaging. Um, and I think that, that term is becoming more and more of a buzzword, so to speak, but I just see like, well, no, I want you to do it like this, or I think you should do it like this. I always ask the question when and you know this more than anyone, Mark, like, and the people watching or listening, sometimes your day is filled with the death of 1,000 "Do you have a minutes?"
Right.
Right? Like, "Mark, do you have a minute? Mark, do you have a minute? Jazz, do you have a minute? You have
Yeah.
a," and you're the leader, and you wanna be helpful, and so I get it, and, "Hey, what do you think we should do here, Jazz? What do you think we should do here, Mark?" My question now for my team is, because I know when I'm making the decision, the truth of the matter is, in full transparency, I got a 50-50 chance of being right or wrong. Like, I don't have all the answers. I'm not like, I can't walk on water yet. You know what I mean? So, I'm making the decision in real time. I got a 50% chance that it's gonna work out, 50% chance it's not gonna work out. I'm using all my experience, the data that I have, the history and all that, and then I'm gonna make a decision. So, what I say to people is, "Hey, what do you think?" And I just shut up and let them answer and let them come to a solution themselves. And what I realized over time, they picked up on it. They're not stupid people. They're like, all right, this guy's just going to put it on me anyways. I'm not even going to waste my time going into the room anymore. I'm just going to
Yeah.
make the decision myself
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's really not a decision that's going to burn the whole boat down. Because you did a good job hiring the person. They're not stealing from like that, you're not thinking about those kind of things. That when you let them make their own decisions and fail and then not ream them out for it, it's like a child, right? Like they just start to get more confident because now they have the experience. And then you're not making decisions as much on a daily basis. You're not getting asked, do you have a minute for every little thing? That frees up your personal time as a leader on your core genius, wherever that may be. It's different for me than it is for Mark. It's for whoever's watching and listening right now. But then if you can spend 80, 90% of your day, and I know that might be like, whoa, I'm not there yet. That's good. You're not there yet, but we can start to work towards a goal where like 80% of your day is spent in the core genius of you, whatever that may be. You're going to drive a lot of revenue because that's at the end of the day, that's what the goal is in business. If it's not a nonprofit, and that will then allow you to scale more by bringing on people, investing into more technology, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and for those of you that are listening here, there's some real genius in what Jazz said and about training and developing leaders. So that one question back, what do you think? And letting them come up, it forces them to think. And actually, that's one of the key traits for developing leaders is helping them make quality decisions. And that one question that Jazz did, like, don't underestimate the genius in that. And it forces them to think for themselves. Right? And I'm sure, Jazz, they give you probably sometimes it's like they'll give you an answer, you're like, "I didn't even think of that myself. That's genius," right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, "Yeah,
No,
that's
and
great.
I
Go
take all
do
the
that."
no, I
Yeah.
no, and then Mark, I take all the credit for their
For
answers and all. No,
sure.
I'm kidding.
Jazz, you're like, "That was amazing. This conversation was so good." Meanwhile, you just asked one question, right? It's like, "Yeah, I talked to
Well,
Jazz and we came up with this together." Meanwhile, it was all them.
well, it's like anything else, right? Like even from a sales perspective, if you ever want to be the most interesting person as you walk into a, n- a networking event, you walk into the bar, you walk into wherever it may be, into an airplane, and you want to be the most interesting person, all you got to do is be the most interested person. And people will walk away from a conversation if you just continuously ask questions. Hey, what do you do? What makes you happy right now? Like what have where did you grow up? And then you kind of ask those open-ended questions. People will leave you and say, wow, that guy's so interesting. That girl's so interesting. And yet you hardly said any words. You just allowed people the psychological air that we all kind of are looking for as humans. We all just want to kind of air out a bunch of things. We want to talk about ourselves. And so, to your point, when you throw it on to someone else and say, hey, what do you think? They got to start making decisions now for themselves.
Yeah. And that to me, it shows the next level in leadership is the ability there's like a humility that comes with curiosity with that question that Jazz, when you go into a room asking questions about other people, the reality is you're not going to be talking about yourself. You're going to be curious about somebody else. And people, they're so appealed to that. It's so attractive. And then eventually they'll be really curious to find out about you. But then it's more them asking about you rather than going the other way around. But even if it is 100% on who you're speaking with, it's such an interesting point you made that they'll walk away from there and say that you are interesting, but meanwhile they just talked all about themselves, right?
I think that's how I got, you know, any type of dates when I was younger. It's obviously not my looks, as we were making jokes. It was because I just asked a lot of questions, and I think women found that interesting. Like, oh, he's just letting me talk. And maybe, I mean, at a younger age, I never knew that it was probably different than what other guys were doing, where they were trying to boost themselves up. And I was like, no, let me just find out more about you. Right. So I compare sales and dating a lot, because I think it's very similar in terms of where in sales we try to go for hard closes too quickly, and we know that's kinda creepy, like, if you go to a bar and the first thing you say to the girl is, "Hey, meet me in room 213," and you slip your room key at the hotel lobby, it's kind of a it's quite creepy. What you're better off to do is provide value, ask some questions, and then just move to the next step in the sales process. I think salespeople try to close way too quickly.
You nailed it, and that's what we found was the fact that the best closers were the ones that didn't talk all about how good they were. They were asking more questions, and then, it came out through the service, "Okay, here are some of the things that we've been able to accomplish," but it's, "H here's how this helped you." Anytime you give any sort of like, "Okay, this is what we've accomplished. This is how it helps you," then it doesn't come across as, like, bragging, it comes across of, "Okay, you're an authority in this space and that's helpful, but you got to come from this place of like, I'm not better than you, but here I'm coming from a place of like, there's an authority there and here I'm going to help you." So I think going into the conversation, what are some things that can help people or some of these, entrepreneurs that are listening to set their mindset right going into a conversation? Maybe it's a sales, uh, situation that they're in. They want to, sell something. What are some things that they can do from a mindset standpoint to maybe start off on the right foot?
I think number 1 is surrounding yourself with the right people. I think being being in a consistent state of positivity is important, because in sales and entrepreneurship, um, it will rain on your parade. Just that's it. I mean, there's an old saying I heard a long time ago, like, if you wanna make God laugh, tell her your plans, right? And that's just how life kinda works. Like, you are going to run into situations that you could not even plan for if you tried to. And so having having that belief in yourself, I understand it's hard to for me to just say that to somebody and they now believe in themselves. And so what I found to work really well for me and people around me is making sure that you audit and look at who you're spending time with. And that doesn't mean that, like, okay, but Jazz, my father's a negative person. I get it. I'm not telling you to stop talking to your dad. That doesn't make that's not gonna work. But maybe you can cut back some time you spend with dad. Maybe, like, if it's 10 hours a week, for example, maybe just get back an hour of your time and put something that is positive in your mind. Hang around people that are positive, because what's gonna happen is if you hang around 5 people that are inspiring, 5 people that are uplifting, there's gonna be a very good chance that you're gonna be number 6, because they're not gonna wanna hang around you if you're the one who's always pulling them down with negativity. So, I would say, to get stronger in self-belief, a tactical that's the strategy, have self-belief. That's the mindset. But tactically, how does somebody actually do it? It's hang around people that are already doing what you wanna do. So, like, if I wanted to, just start I was starting as a real estate agent. I'm calling up Mark. Like, "Dude, you're the top guy in the market. Like, can I get coffees for you? Like, you don't even need to pay me at the start. Can I just maybe you don't wanna get the printing from the printer. I'll get that for you. Why? Because there's a good chance I'm gonna learn through osmosis. I'm gonna learn through the conversations you're having. I think something else that is very important in terms of mindset is taking responsibility for whatever happens in your life. This this notion that it's the red government's fault or the blue government's fault, or in Canada we got this new orangish red government. Um, and I'm not here on on a political rant by any means. It's the exact opposite of it, which is it's nobody's fault but you. Your results are based on the reactions you've had to events in your life. Yes, it did rain on your parade. Yes, someone maybe tragically passed away. Yes, the client didn't say, I want to do business with you. How you react to that will determine your outcome. And so understanding that you need to be proactive in taking responsibility is very, very important, because being reactive in any situation, in my opinion, is never a good strategy. So that would be two things that come to my mind right away. And the third thing, we kind of touched on it earlier. It's kind of how I hire people, really, is I believe that most people overthink majority of things. They overthink starting a business. They overthink hiring someone because they heard someone say to them at some point, you don't want to hire people. You know how much time they take from you? You don't want to hire people. It's going to cost you money. Starting content, social media, doing a podcast, putting yourself out there. It's tough. They overthink about the judgment that they might get. And so what happens is most people fall into what's known as paralysis by analysis. They never really take action because they just keep continuously thinking about it. And so a strategy that I learned a long time ago is and this is going to screw with a lot of people. It's ready, fire, aim, which I know is contrary to what we grew up with, because we were always told, look before you leap. And it's ready, aim, and then fire. But when you just get really comfortable over time pulling the trigger, what happens is that the feedback loop gets started. So if you pull the trigger trying to hit any target, like real life shooting, for example, you're gonna know really, really quickly if it was when you miss that you were too far left, just adjust, go a little further right. Ah, it was too high. Let me come a little bit lower. And so in business, if you hire really, really quickly, it starts the feedback loop that it might work. It might just work. You might have just hit, you might have got lucky and you might have attracted the right leader. But on the flip side, you might have got it wrong. Instead of thinking about the judgment of everyone, get rid of that person and get someone else. Content for me, Mark, was the biggest game changer in my sales. I naturally, and I think by now, as we're into this, 40 minutes or so, people have made their decision about me. They're either thinking this guy's on some type of crack or drugs, and there's something wrong with this guy, and that's fine. It is what it is. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Or they're like, all right, there's something about this guy. He does have that natural charisma, a little bit of charisma, maybe, and a little bit of salesmanship. And I mention that because nothing changed my business and my life as much as content creation. Because for the 25 years of the 30 years in the sales industry, because yeah, I've been doing content steadily for 5 years now. For 25 of the 30 years, I've always fought uphill. Like I sold cars at a very, very high level for 3-4 years. The real estate, even when we were starting, you're always building the authority in a conversation. Whatever which way you're doing it, asking questions, showing your testimonials, all that stuff. Content changed everything. Why? Because people got to make a decision really quickly. I like this guy. I want to work with him. I want to get to know him a little bit more. I want to get in his world, or I don't like him. But they also got to make that decision on their own time. And so I bring that into our conversation because that is where I feel most people get hung up in entrepreneurship, because
Yeah.
they've failed to realize that
Yeah.
now where we are in terms of timing, there is nothing that even compares to getting awareness for whatever business you're in than social media. Nothing. It's just, I can touch people right across the world. You can do it in different formats. You can do a video, you can do an audio, you can do written word, you can do images, you can do so many things from a content perspective. it's so scalable, and it's almost free, pretty much free. Like, you get a phone, you shoot a video in selfie mode, you have the phone in your hand, the camera on your phone is 10 times better than what, you know, videographers and filmmakers had back in the 80s, for example. But that's where they get stuck, is in the judgment of others and the worry of others. And so, as I generally do, I talk sometimes and speak in tangents. I hope people got some of the traits that you need to get into the world of entrepreneurship, but also have longevity and sustainability, is by taking action more often, understanding that you have to take responsibility for your results. It is not the bank's fault. It is not the Fed's fault. It is not the market's fault. The market will always do what the market does. People will buy, people will sell, people won't buy, they won't sell. You can actually make the change if you take action consistently.
Wow, you have so much there. And I'll just start off like this action item that you talked about, this trait, which is so key with entrepreneurs. They say when you're 20, you care about what people think. When you're 40, you've heard this, right? When you're 40, you don't care about what people think, and then when you're 60, you realize that people aren't thinking about you at all. I mean, that's so true. And in business, it's interesting. I went to this seminar one time and they said, well, what's more important, know, like, or trust? And, everybody puts their hand up for trust. But he said, actually, know is more important because if people don't get to know you, they won't get to like and trust you, which is the number one challenge for business people is that just people don't know you at all. So becoming known becomes your number one goal. And social media, social side of it, you heard Jazz that it skyrocketed your business when you just jump in and you started taking action. There's a couple other things that you had said there. This 100%, responsibility, zero excuses. That is such a big differentiating factor from top producers to, we'll say, low producers, is that they see the cup as half full versus half empty. Like, you provided them, you gave them like 10 leads, and those 10 leads, like, they're doing everything in their power because they believe there's something good versus like these leads suck. That's a victim versus victor mindset. And then the people around you, like, that getting the right people around you is it happens and you don't even know it happens. And it's just such a simple hack that if you just get into a better room, and that's why it's so important by, say, joining Jazz's team, you're joining a team of top producers that already have a built-in culture of high productivity. And I was telling their team the same thing. It's like, if you come in, you just are forced, you'll naturally start doing the right things just by being in the room. And when you're on your own and you're not in the right room, you start to do the things that maybe aren't in alignment compared to if you were in the right room. So I think you summarize those points so well, Jazz. And for if you're listening out there, like, really to hone in and almost rewind what Jazz was saying there, because those 3 points, if you just focus on those and do those well, you're going to do extremely well in business.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm at a point in my life right now where I'm only really watching who's getting into my inner circle. Like, I'm very, very careful of that. I've kind of picked, not to say that, I think the kids have it like a hashtag, like no new friends or something like that. Maybe that's a Drake quote or something like that. So I'm not saying that. Like, I'm
Yeah,
all about
yeah,
new people, acquaintances, friends, and all that. But I mean, like, my inner circle, um, because I just don't want negativity around me. I get it. Like, I have enough problems already. I don't need to hear about everyone else's problems all the time, plus be told about my problems. I need solutions. And a funny thing about problems, and you probably have heard this one, Mark, like, if we were in a room with 100 people and we all threw our problems in the middle of the table, I have a funny feeling you'll take back your own. Like, you don't
yeah,
want anybody
yeah.
else's. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I like that.
You got a lot of
Yeah,
shit going on in life, right?
yeah,
And so the surrounding yourself, and look, I've even heard this, like, Jazz, I don't have the ability to meet more people. That's a different, we could go on for 2 hours figuring out how to meet more people and generate business and leads. But when it comes to your circle, look, I actually mean it from a physical perspective. That's what Mark and I were talking about with our teams. But even with yourself, meaning that when you're driving, the average person in any major city, I'm here right now in Toronto, Canada, and the average person will drive an equivalent to a 4-year degree in university, right? With the traffic and all the driving and all that. What are you listening to? I'm not here to say don't ever listen to music. Like I put the music on in the summer and put the windows down sometimes and I'm singing and all that kind of stuff. And I love that. Gets me in a good state in the morning sometimes. But I'm going to say about 90% of my driving time is listening to a book, listening to the Mark Faris experience, listening to other podcasts. Why? Because if you can implement what's known as NET, no extra time needed, you're driving. You don't need any extra time to listen to that book or that podcast. What you're putting in the 6 inches between the ears is so important. And so rather than look, in my opinion, listening to the news where and I don't blame them. They're not a nonprofit. Online, on TV, on the radio, they got a job to do. And their job is to sell advertisements. And the best way to sell ads is to put out negativity. Because if on the news, all they talked about, tomorrow's going to be a beautiful, sunny, 100-degree weather, nobody really watches it or cares it. The second they say, be careful, the hurricane's coming, but we all tune in. Like, what's going to happen? What do I need to board up? And so if it bleeds, it will lead. And so we have to now going to the fact of you're in control of your own reaction responses. You have to take control and decide, which means cut everything else off that is of any negative energy, because God, universe, whatever you want to call it, whatever you put out more of, you will always get back, period. It's like gravity. It will always do its thing, no matter what. If you believe in it or not, and I'm not trying to get all philosophical and foofy-foffy right now, but it's true. The law of vibration and the law of frequency states whatever you put out there, you will get back more of. So be very, very careful of the thoughts and the words you're using and allowing in your head because they cast spells. That's why it's called spelling, right? And so we got to be very careful with the thoughts and the words we let in the 6 inches between our ears.
Yeah, so powerful. And, the university on wheels, I love that concept and that idea. And it doesn't, like you said, no extra time. It's just about intentionality, right? And you are hanging around, you're actually putting that guru that's speaking in your car right beside you, giving their best advice. Like they take their whole life and they condense it down into a book, and then they're there talking to you on Audible right beside you. It's like, come on, like
For
it
like
just
$15. For like
yeah.
50 bucks.
It's like it seems silly because you're like, if I just met them, he'd give me the best advice or she'd give me the best advice. But they just spent probably 2 years to write a book that was the best, the absolute best, and they condensed it into a book. So when you start to think of it this way, all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, there's so much out there, all the best. You can capture it very quickly. You can even speed it up. Okay, I get that part. Come on, speed up to 1.7, right? Okay. Yeah. Right? And so this is something that it's such like a and Jazz, what I'll say to that point there as well is that it's one thing to listen, it's another thing to implement. And one of the things that when because I'll recommend a book, and I would say out of 100 times I'll recommend a book to someone, there's maybe one out of 100 people will come back and say, I read that book and thank you. And I would even be less than one would say, I've implemented this and this, and I've taken something and I've implemented it. And if you can just read something and then implement it and take action on that, you will it's crazy how many people just don't do it. It's like, yeah, I read that book 3 years. I'm like, do you have your goal card? You're Think and Grow Rich. Do you have your They're like, oh no, I didn't cut. It was like, that's the main point of Think and Grow Rich is have a goal card, right? So I love that concept with the university on wheels.
Yeah, and And I think that's why there's always a top 1% in every industry, in every sport. It's why we have, my favorite player of all time in hockey has been Mario Lemieux, and then I love the mentorship that he gave Sydney. So like I just became a Sydney fan automatically, and the Kobe Bryants of the world, the Beyoncés of the world, because they do what 99% of the people don't do, which
Yeah.
is implement. It
Yeah.
really comes down to implementation. And I think what a mistake a lot of people make is that they underestimate what they can do in a 5-year period or even a year period, call it, but they overestimate what they can do in a 30-day period, right? So it's like, I'm gonna change. We hear this a lot in the real estate business. My next quarter, I'm gonna double my business. Have you ever doubled your business? Have you ever just went up by 25%? Have you went up by 10%? No. How about we just put look, I'm all about thinking big. Okay, I get it. But let's make some small incremental changes and implement some habits in the next 30 days, which will set you up from a fundamental perspective to allow you to double your business every year after the first 3 years. Imagine that, right? But it's hard. That's hard to do. That's very, very difficult to be consistent and think that long term. It's why we have, you know, people who buy weird ass things to lose weight, like some oils or some drinks and like all these things, right? Because it's such a quick fix, because nobody actually wants to put in the work. Um, like I'm trying to get into better shape, and not even because I need more energy. I've been working out for the last, I don't know, 30 days or so, consistently, really putting in the time. I'm really like, I enjoy it from the perspective of what 62-year-old Jas is gonna say. I hate everything else about it, Mark. I'm sore. I don't even get to eat the stuff that I like to eat all the time. There's nothing like, when people say you're gonna love it and you're gonna get this high, I get no high. I get none of it. I'm only doing it for 62-year-old Jas. Because I don't wanna look back and say, "Wow, were you ever
Yeah.
lazy? And look at you now. You have a hard time getting off the couch, or your knees hurt," and all that kinda stuff, right? So, whatever it is, I would want people to start to think that it's supposed to be hard. Don't hope it was easy. Be better, work harder, and your future self will thank you for it.
Well, and you just hit something that I found with top producers to be a very consistent theme is that longer term thinking. Like, I love how you said that 62-year-old Jas is who you're doing it for. It's interesting when you start to see that. I was sitting down with the city planner one day and I asked him, like, you're meeting with all these billionaire developers. Like, what's the difference with them? What is it that separates them from everyone else? And he thought about it for a minute and he said, you know what? Like, these guys are like extreme long-term thinkers. Like they're not thinking a decade, they're thinking like a generation and multiple generations when they're making their decisions. And I thought about that and I'm like, you know what? It's interesting. The more successful you are, the more long-term thinker you are. And going the opposite way, what happens is somebody that's addicted to cocaine or, they're thinking minute to minute. Right? And so the end of the spectrum is pretty just longer term thinking will put you into the category of top producer.
I mean, you just made me think because you said city planners and billionaire developers. Myself and two of my team members were blessed to be flown out to Dubai. First time I ever been there. They asked us, a brokerage asked us to do a training for them for a couple of days, and I didn't do a lot of research because I just didn't have the time to find out like how did Dubai start and all this kind of stuff. So, anyways, when I got there, some of the agents in the office gave me some YouTube videos and gave me a book and all this kind of stuff to do some research. There's a clip on YouTube that you can find of the Sheikh of Dubai in 1973. Okay, and it's on YouTube, and he's in a helicopter, and it's like bare. Like I think there's one building. Okay, and it was an interview with an ABC reporter, if I remember properly, and he asked the Sheikh like, so what are you gonna do here? He's like, it's gonna take me about 35 years, but Dubai will be the most visited city in the world. It will be in the top 3 to 5 safest cities in the world. And we will have the number one in most categories. He didn't say this, but true fact, Dubai is in the Guinness Book of World Records to have the most world records. Okay. And now it's probably a little longer than 30 years it took him. It took him maybe 40. They're number two safest city in the world, the number one visited city in the world for the past 3 to 5 years. And he said to himself at that time, this is going to take me about 35 years. So to your point, Mark, it's
Love
all
that.
about
That's
passion
such
for
a great
improvement.
experience, and Dubai has such a great name on a world stage, so I love that story that you were able to listen in, and then now we can see it in fruition, right? I know we're running tight on time here, Jazz. What investing you're super successful investor as well, so business and then the investing side. What advice would you give the listeners out there for any sort of investing advice that maybe they're making some really good coin and they want to invest it? What would you suggest to them to, help them grow their wealth faster?
Yeah, look, I think there's so many ways that you can invest money as long as you're thinking about it from a long-term perspective. I mean, it fits to what we were just talking. I mean, there's so many parallels between business, entrepreneurship, and investing, right? The guys and gals that have that long-term plan, they understand that the best invention in the world, said by probably one of the smartest and most intelligent people in the world, Albert Einstein, was compound interest. And so if you can find an investment that allows you to earn compound interest, you're going to create wealth. Now, I am biased. I'm biased not because I'm a real estate broker. I'm biased because it's the education that I immersed myself in. It's the education that I decided to get, and that's where I put my money. I actually don't think real estate is necessarily the best investment to make. I just think it's one of the best because it's quite easy to get involved in. And meaning that you could do it with a little money down. Like you don't need to have hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, there's certain real estate investments that, yes, you need that, but you can start very small and you can start with three other people, four other people. If you have 10, $20,000 each, you can do a joint venture. You can touch it because it's real estate, it's a piece of land. And for until the robots come, humans need a place to live. That's it. They need a place to live. It doesn't matter wherever you go in the world. And so to answer your question directly, I would say real estate. And then within real estate, understand there is, off the top of my head, there's probably 50 to 60 different ways you can get involved in investing into real estate. Find out what works well for you. And so being a real estate broker for 20 years now, helping thousands upon thousands of investors. I personally am the laziest investor I think on the planet. Meaning, like if you ask me to put up the shelves behind this wall, Mark, I'm lost, brother. The team knows, don't put a hammer in Jazz's hand. My wife knows. She does not put a hammer. She does that stuff. So I'm not somebody that can go in, fix things, go add a story to a home and add, like, I can't do any of that stuff. So what I decided to do was do more of a lazy slash passive investment. And what that is I invest into pre-construction condos. And why? Because I don't have to have the full investment in terms of the down payment all at once. I can put it over increments. I like the one tenant I just have to deal with. So that's my portfolio consists mostly of that. And then I'm shifting towards what I think is the best way to invest into real estate, which is multiplexes. I personally believe that's what most investors should work their way up to. They should get into because the economy of scale is the best when it gets into multiplexes. And then the old adage in real estate, location, 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 that's important. You got to look at a place that has population growth, has good strong economy. Where is governments in that area? Are governments in that area putting money in? and that's always a good indication. That's kind of my Reader's Digest version of how to find a good real estate investment. But yeah, I mean, look, people make money with bitcoins and mutual funds and stocks. I just don't know much about it, so I don't play in it. I like to play in what I know, and that's real estate.
Yeah, well said, and I definitely agree with those items that go
And
ahead.
I'll just cap it off here. The best investment, in all honesty, though, is the investment in yourself. It's the highest return you'll ever get in your life. The highest return. It's infinite, infinite. If you can just make that investment into yourself first.
So well said. All right, 1 quick minute, we're gonna go through rapid fire here. First question for you is, what was your favorite book that had the biggest impact in your career or wealth building?
Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by the late great Dr. Stephen Covey.
Well said. And how would others describe you in 3 words?
Charismatic, energetic, passionate.
Yep. Well said. And then last question is, what kind of advice or what last piece of advice would you give our listeners or to your younger self?
You're gonna you're going to go through times that are gonna be very, very difficult. Find a way to consistently love yourself, because when your cup is overflowing, it is so much easier to give to others. Tactically speaking, understand that we generally feel really good when someone hugs and kisses us. Our partners, our parents, our kids, our nephews, our nieces, we've all felt that kiss and that hug. At any point in your life, in your day, you can give that to yourself. How? Mm, Kiss yourself and hug yourself and tell yourself that you are enough.
Well said. Jas Takhar, super powerful interview here. Thanks for sharing all your wisdom and looking forward to having you back in the future.
Can't wait.
Right on. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and share with others who might benefit from the insight shared today. Have a great day, guys.